When Huawei announced the Mate 20 Pro, they also made a pretty bold claim. They said that this phone will charge 440% faster than the iPhone XS Max. We're going to put that to the test. So, welcome to the charging speed test, in which we're going to have the Mate 20 Pro with its behemoth 40-watt charger. But I've also managed to get hold of the standard Mate 20, and that should be no joke either, with 22.5-watt charging. We've then got the Pixel with 18-watt charging, which on paper shouldn't be far behind at all. The Note 9, which is still stuck on 15 watts, something the company's been using for a while now, and the iPhone XS Max, which comes with a pretty appalling 5-watt charger in the box. Okay, let's get this show on the road, and to make this a completely fair test, we're going to drain all the phones right here, right now. They're all pretty much about to die, so I've just pulled up some demanding games and apps. They'll be gone in a couple of minutes. So that's it, we plug in the cables and charging begins. So for all of these phones, I'm using the stock charger that you would get with the phone. That's probably the one that 95% of people will end up using. Seems like the fairest way to do this. For some reason, the iPhone's battery jumps at the beginning. It seems to think it's on more charge than it is, but this corrects itself further down the line. And you can probably tell already, these two Huawei phones have already pulled ahead. They are blazing fast when it comes to charging speed. It's been barely 5 minutes and the Mate 20 Pro is already on 12, 13, 4, okay, I can't keep up. Quite a lot of percentage points. The Pro model isn't as far ahead of the standard model as I was expecting, or as the charging specification might make you believe, but this could be explained by 40 watts only being the maximum power of the charger. It doesn't consistently charge at 40 watts, and also the fact that the Mate 20 Pro has a slightly larger capacity than the Mate 20. This means that 40% on the Mate 20 Pro is worth slightly more than 40% on the Mate 20. Okay, so taking a look at the other phones, you can see that they're pretty much in the order you would expect given how powerful their chargers are. As you can probably tell, testing the charging speed when you're using the chargers that come in the boxes is not something that favors the iPhones. Even though it has the smallest battery of all 5 phones here, the XS Max is on the lowest percentage. This is comparatively not even close. This is the kind of difference you would definitely notice on a day-to-day basis. If you look at the comparison, you look at the difference between that phone and the Mate 20 Pro on the very left-hand side, it's staggering. Also, let me know what you think to these new graphics. I've been trying to make the video as easy to follow, but also nice to look at as possible. And if you're new around here, I would really appreciate it if you could smash that subscribe button for plenty more tests like this. Okay, so notice how after 50 minutes, the Mate 20 Pro is now on over 90%, which is great, but at the same time means it has slowed down since it hit over 20% after just 10 minutes. And this is normal, this happens with all phones when they're charging, but this is the reason why companies tend to quote the initial charging figures. They might give you a certain amount of power after 30 minutes of charging, just because that's the most impressive. To make this a fair test, by the way, the iPhone turns on automatically when you start charging it, so I've turned on all the phones as a result. Also, I've put them all on airplane mode and kept their screens at the same brightness, using a luminance meter. Okay, Huawei Mate 20 Pro has hit 100% after just under 1 hour and 10 minutes. The first thing to note is that that is the fastest charging phone I've ever tested, but the other interesting thing is that Huawei's quoted figure was that the phone would get 70% charge in 30 minutes, and clearly that's not quite what happened here. There's a number of potential reasons for that. The phone is on for starters, but to be fair, when it's in airplane mode it's barely sipping power. I'm sure the fact that I'm checking the screen every now and again will also contribute to this slightly slower charging. Not to mention, figures that are given are almost always best case scenarios, so what we're seeing here is probably more likely the kind of charging speed you would get. If you've also been looking at the Mate 20, you'll have noticed it fell quite significantly behind towards the end of the test, and now finishing at 1 hour 40, it is a good portion slower than the Mate 20 Pro, and not so far ahead of the Pixel 3 XL or even the Note 9. The iPhone is looking like a different beast altogether, but we'll get to that when it comes. As we hover around the 2-hour mark, the Note 9 finishes charging. And to be honest, it's a pretty impressive performance. Compared to the Pixel, it doesn't take much longer, but its capacity is much higher. Even though it's taken longer, it has charged a lot more battery in that extra time. Okay, so we're not going to spend too much time on the iPhone here. I'm going to fast forward it so that we just get to the end to see how long it takes. But essentially, a long time, especially as the battery starts to fill up. Now, for those of you who use a fast charger, I've already separately charged the iPhone XS Max on its own with a fast charger to see what the result would be, so I'll leave that at the end as well. So, all phones are now fully charged. Let's take a look at the results to make a bit of a comparison. In 5th place was the iPhone XS Max. Appalling time, 3 hours 22 minutes, but if you did use a fast charger, you get a much more respectable 1 hour 50. The Note 9 then finished quite a way ahead, with 2 hours and 1 minute. Pretty impressive given its large capacity, but at the same time, not amazing. I didn't come away that impressed by the Pixel. Considering it has a 3430 mAh battery, which is pretty average, it still took nearly 2 hours to fully charge. Then we have the Mate 20, and this is on the boundary of what I would consider a fast charging phone. It's got the same battery capacity as the Galaxy Note 9, but finished almost 20% faster. This is pretty comparable to OnePlus 6 charging speed if you look at it in terms of milliamp hours per minute. But then the Pro really impressed me. This phone has not just the largest battery of the bunch, but also, even with that, managed to charge almost 30% faster than the already fast Mate 20. I don't think you'll regularly hit the 70% charge in 30 minutes claim, especially if your phone is on, but aside from the Super VOOC charging Oppo Find X Lamborghini edition, this is easily one of the fastest, if not the fastest, charging phones in the world. So that's the charging test. I've got plenty more Huawei Mate 20 Pro and Mate 20 coverage coming up, and if there's anything in particular you want to see, drop a comment, let me know, I will have a look. And with that being said, my name is Aaron, this is Mr. Who's the Boss, and I'll catch you in the next one.